Subscribe to my channel. Certain folks go through life avoiding any ripples. I was once like that. You grin, you agree. You ignore a cutting remark since she's simply stressed, or he wasn't intending it that way. You turn into the one who takes it all in. But soon the level rises too much, and even a strong swimmer sinks. I returned from a career growth workshop in Asheville a couple of weeks back, excited to rest in my familiar bed, feel the lemon tree on my rear deck, listen to the area's buzz. I'd arranged everything neatly, fridge stocked, place spotless, entry light on automatic. My spouse, Jake, had the week free to stay with his mother, Deborah, who'd been living with us short-term after her hip operation the previous spring. I hauled my bag along the path, greeted Mr. Hutchkins as he sprinkled his grass nearby, and spotted something that halted me instantly. A white SUV sat in our spot. Not Jake's, not Deborah's, an unknown one. And past the main window, I noticed activity. A guy in a blue blazer scanning documents on a notepad. A lady's tone echoed. This is authentic wood flooring. Cassidy planned to swap it out. Good thing I halted her. Wreck a fine surface for what? A quaint cabin style. I shoved the entrance ajar. There stood Deborah, attired as if starring in a renovation program, pointing at the hearth like she controlled it all. Beside her, a fellow in trousers and casual shoes, an agent. What's going on here? Deborah spun around halfway through her words and grinned, as if I were a specter she hadn't anticipated stepping in. Cassidy, you've arrived ahead of schedule. Not ahead, right on schedule. What's this about? The agent advanced, extending a palm. Hello, Jordan Crane, Crane Realty. Your, mother-in-law was giving me a tour. Mentioned the household chose to list it. The household hasn't chosen a thing, I stated. This home is mine solely. Jordan paused, arms stuck outstretched. Deborah sighed dramatically. Oh dear, you're forever so possessive. It's unhealthy. Jake shared how tough it's been for you recently. All those trips, the pressure, the migraines. We figured perhaps it was time to downsize. Did he? Jake wasn't present. Naturally not. Deborah always acted when he was absent. And as ever, she cast herself as the victim in a sentimental tale. I faced Jordan. You're intruding. Kindly depart. He didn't protest. He seemed like someone handed a faulty property ad. That evening, Jake returned with Thai food to go and a weary grin, acting as though he hadn't vanished amid a household breach. What happened earlier? I questioned, arms folded. She didn't intend to. No, you can't soften it. She toured my home with an agent, Jake. He massaged his nape. She frets over you. She schemes. Big distinction. He hesitated, then suggested. You do get swamped at times, Cass. You overanalyze. Perhaps this place is overwhelming currently. There it came. He avoided my gaze as he spoke. He merely placed my spring roll on the dish and settled in as if that wrapped it up. Jake, is there an issue you're hiding? Quiet. That night, I examined the file cabinet in my workspace. The title remained. My name, only proprietor, bequeathed by my Aunt Cheryl, who'd nurtured me from 13 onward as her child. Jake had never contributed a cent to this property. He understood that. Yet something seemed wrong. The files were shuffled. My authority papers, typically at the rear, were shifted forward. I reviewed each paper, abruptly questioning what I'd long viewed as firm foundation underfoot. Over the next days, Deborah showed her disdain openly. Darling, perhaps cut back on the caffeine. You seemed edgy, Cassidy. The clothes hampers overflowing. Not typical for you. Jake mentions you've been slipping on details lately. Is it tension or more? Stacy showed up the following day. Jake's junior sibling. Always job hopping. Constantly crossing lines with a tone that could sugarcoat poison. Hi, Cass, she trilled, placing her bag in the corridor. Thought I'd crash here a bit, assist Mom. You've got plenty going on. She embraced me knowing I'd stay stiff. This place has a real atmosphere. She remarked that evening, drinking rose from one of my fine stems. Ever since it's shadowed by your temper shifts? By week's close, I grasped something alarming. They were constructing an argument against me. Deborah began posing loaded queries before locals. Cass, did you locate your phone? You know, After that frenzy the other evening. No frenzy occurred. You forgot the burner on once more. No issue, I handled it. I never did. Cassidy's been muttering in her rest. Truly grim content. The resident opposite, Marcia, inquired if I was fine. Her voice was gentle, sympathetic. Then I discovered it. A medicine container stashed in my nightstand compartment. Plain tag. My name. Drugs I'd never encountered. Antipsychotics. Underneath, a creased sheet with unsteady script resembling mine oddly, stating stuff like can't rest. Can't rely on them. Detect sounds in the ducts. I gazed at it extensively. I didn't weep. I didn't yell. I shut the compartment, stepped to the yard, and rapped on Mr. Hutchkins's barrier. Evening, Cassidy, he replied, cleaning his palms on his pants. Still got that extra motion detector from your entry system? He paused. Sure. For the critters? No, I replied, for something nastier. I positioned the device subtly, nestled it in a book holder on my chamber ledge, draped it with a light fabric, hardly visible without prior knowledge, and I bided my time. Stacy entered the space 2 evenings on while I slumbered. The footage captured it all. How she retrieved the medicine vial from her bag. How she inserted the sheet into the compartment. How she snapped an image of everything, grinning. Then she exited as if she hadn't attempted to obliterate someone. I didn't challenge her. Not immediately. They'd already submitted a legal motion to appoint Jake as interim guardian of the asset, referencing my worsening mental condition. I got the alert via post 3 days prior to the session. Ashley Crane, my attorney, regarded me with slight worry when I presented the recording. You possess sharp senses, she noted. Let's utilize this wisely. On the session morning, I lingered before the reflection more than normal. I didn't apply bold makeup. I didn't don crimson. That would have been too blatant. Rather, I slipped into a gentle gray jacket, pearl studs in use in Cheryl's service, and silent flats on sleek floors. I appeared as the sort of lady beyond doubt. Serene, astute, composed. Ashley greeted me at the court entrance. She held her case like a precision tool. Prepared, she inquired. Made for it, I responded. I wasn't. But I'd endured sufficient years silencing myself to understand how to restrain now, just sufficiently to deliver the precise strike. Jake arrived solo. Deborah and Stacy entered shortly after. Deborah exaggeratedly clutching her spine as if proximity to me inflicted agony. You forever complicate things, Cassidy, she grumbled passing by. All this drama for what? Amusing, I murmured gently. I had the identical thought regarding you. The magistrate was a slender lady in her 50s with zero tolerance for foolishness. Excellent. I approved of her instantly. Jake's counsel began the act. The applicant, Mr. Brooks, requests interim guardianship owing to worries about Mrs. Brooks's unpredictable conduct, possible suspicion, and impaired decision-making. He referenced the alleged anxiety episodes, the invented writings, and naturally, the antipsychotic drugs found by worried relatives. The relatives are merely safeguarding Mrs. Brooks and the shared residence. He wrapped up from affection. Ashley remained steady. Your Honor, she started evenly. We possess grounds to think the alleged proof is not just concocted, but deliberately placed to slander and deprive my client of her residence. May we present recorded proof for review? The magistrate lifted a brow. Recorded? Ashley affirmed, timed and marked from a personal home monitoring setup. The display was brought forward. I avoided glancing at Stacy. Unnecessary. I sensed the atmosphere change instantly as she emerged on the feed, slinking into my chamber like a youth pilfering liquor, placing a medicine container in the compartment, capturing a shot, smirking upon departure. Inhales, one stifled. Oh Lord, from Jake? Perhaps. We also present, Ashley proceeded, that Mrs. Brooks completed an unbiased mental assessment 2 days earlier. The physician's summary is included. She is mentally stable, completely operational, and profoundly conscious of the deceit in her home. The magistrate eyed Jake straight. Mr. Brooks, did you know of your siblings' deeds? Jake parted his lips, sealed them, gulped. No, Your Honor. And did you seek to confirm your mother's or siblings' assertions about your spouse's psychological condition? No, Your Honor. Why not? He peeked at me. The initial true glance in weeks and stated plainly, I didn't wish to accept they deceive me. But you were ready to accept they deceive about her. He remained mute. The magistrate organized her documents. The tribunal rejects the guardianship request. Moreover, the tribunal mandates an instant halt to any property dealings concerning the site at 12 Wakefield Drive. Ashley's tone held firm. Your Honor, we likewise hold the option to seek legal remedy for slander, record alteration, and harmful meddling. The magistrate agreed. Noted. Deborah rose suddenly. This is outrageous. That residence is Jake's family's. His dad constructed the patio himself. Ashley pivoted a bit. His spouse covered the loan single-handedly for a decade. Oh, come on, Deborah scoffed. That lady would have unraveled without us. We merely provided a small push. You inserted medications. Deborah, I stated icily. You misled my locals. You aimed to rob my freedoms and label it support. That's not a push. That's a trap. The space held still. Even Stacy fixed on the ground. At home, the residence's hush echoed stronger than any speech. I placed the legal papers on the dining surface. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gather anyone's items. I simply unlatched the panes, allowed the breeze. Jake entered near 7. Posture drooped like a youngster who'd shattered the kin relic. Cass, he uttered, but I raised a palm. I'm skipping the speech. We both grasped what transpired. I didn't expect it to escalate so much, but you accepted its beginning. She's my mom and I was your spouse. One was expendable. He bowed his head. What next? Now, I declared, you choose if you prefer residing with your mom, your sibling, or your backbone, but not me. Deborah and Stacy departed the following week. No emotional goodbyes, no regrets. Stacy's final remark to me was, you know, you're somewhat intimidating when you cease faking kindness. I grinned. Fine. Remain intimidated. Several weeks on, I approached the barrier and saw Mr. Hutchkins trimming his blooms. You nailed it, I mentioned about. Folks don't alter. But recordings don't deceive, he laughed. Cheers to that. We observed a rodent dash over the wire, and for the first instance in months, I sensed the tightness in my core ease. I wasn't restored to usual. I wasn't certain what usual meant now. But I possessed my title on the document, my speech in my mouth, and a quiet I at last identified as calm, not dread. 2 months on, the residence truly seemed mine once more. No paces resounding at 2 a.m. No murmured talks past semi-shut entries. No Deborah lingering nearby, skiing on how a true lady maintains order. It was hushed, nearly excessively hushed, but it was my hush. Jake lingered a while. He expressed remorse tepidly in the manner guys do when they see the vessel foundering, yet unsure which breach sparked the flood. He delivered blooms I hadn't requested, prepared supper once and charred the fish. Stated he simply desired a fresh beginning. Fresh beginning? I queried him with what? A blank page. You surrendered my existence to your mom like a trade slip. I didn't realize she'd know. You chose not to realize. Big difference. He ceased attempting afterward. He began resting in the spare space, claiming it was due to his breathing noises. 3 weeks on, he loaded a sack and relocated to a unit by his workout spot. No clash, no sobs, just a message. You merit someone who believes in you more than I did. I didn't dispute. He was correct. Deborah attempted contact once, left a recording on my line. Cassidy, you know, we aimed only to assist. Kin should remain united. Don't harbor resentment, dear. Resentment ages a lady prematurely. I erased it midway. The genuine shift happened when Marcia opposite held a local gathering. Deborah had circulated so many tales that I assumed many of these folks viewed me as nearing commitment. So when Marcia invited me, I accepted. The spread featured pastries, rolls, and that awkward hush when all fear posing the clear query. I learned you faced heavy strain, Marcia noted cautiously. I grinned. You mean did I go insane? No, but I did exhaust my tolerance for valid cause. And then steadily, systematically, I shared it all on the drugs, the inserted writings, the false narratives Deborah supplied them. I even displayed a capture from the legal record where the magistrate rejected Jake's motion with a firm, Mrs. Brooks is entirely able to handle her matters. By my tail's close, Marcia's jaw dropped and the guy from nearby grumbled, "Damn, we figured Deborah was holy." "Holy ones don't enlist agents to swipe another's home," I remarked. They chuckled. It wasn't mean chuckling. It was release. Perhaps for them, perhaps for me. A week on, I got a note from Stacy. No remorse, just one phrase. "You're stronger than you appear." I admire that. I balled it and discarded it. Admiration from one who sought to wipe me out wasn't valuable. One weekend dawn, I lounged on the deck with Brew, viewing the light ascend above Wakefield Drive. Mr. Hutchkins ambled near with his typical leisurely step. "Spot appears nice," he commented. "Thanks. It seems airier. Odd aspect of homes," he added, resting on the barrier. "They conceal truths until you're prepared to reveal them." I pondered that about Cheryl and how she'd shown me that affection wasn't keeping others at ease. It was daring enough to voice facts. 3 months post Jake's exit, I submitted for separation. The forms returned with his mark looped like a youth's. No dispute, no demand on the residence, just a vacant spot where his name once aligned with mine. On a serene dusk, I wandered the areas as Deborah had before, but now with appreciation, not avarice. I felt the entry borders, the marked dining surface, the image of Cheryl in the passage. I murmured, "We're holding on." And then, I grasped I didn't require shouts to triumph. I didn't need vengeance that raised all. My success was the hush, the existence they couldn't snatch. A few weeks on, Marcia hosted another gathering, and I visited with a newly made fruit dessert. Someone wondered if I felt secure now solo. I grinned and replied, "I feel more secure than ever with a full home of folks who claimed love while scheming to seize all I owned." It grew still. Then Marcia lifted her cup to Cassidy, the lady who showed we all misjudged her. That evening, on the deck, I understood I'd completed the loop from a lady who allowed others to override her to a lady who no longer sought their endorsement. I gazed at the heavens and murmured, "You forever exaggerate, Cassidy." Not now. Now I respond, and I don't regret, and that I believe is the true form of calm.